Everyone. Welcome to Gilded. We're happy that you're here today, especially given that it's Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're glad to be back here in the Kauffman building. We spent our first year being kind of incubated here, if you will. And now we're at the Kemper and the Uptown Arts Bar on the second and fourth Thursdays. But we're glad to be here. And for those of you who are new to Gilded, first of all, my name is Ebony Johnson. I'm one of the facilitators. And Gilded is really about the art of conversation. We connect art-based entrepreneurs and talk about the behind-the-scenes works that they do as far as business and administration and financing and operations, if you will. And the rich part of the time here is you, the audience, engaging and asking questions about their business and how they do what they do and make connections, and also giving some feedback and advice. So what will happen is we have two presenters today, two established artists in the Kansas City area. They'll give us about a 6-minute presentation, and then we do about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A with the audience. So feel free to pay attention and ask away questions that you have. I would like to thank the Kauffman Foundation, who is one of our major supporters and funders as well, for supporting us and hosting us here today, as well as our other supporters with the Uptown Arts Bar, the Kemper Museum, Pasolini Law Firm, and Chameleon as well. And then my colleagues are in the back. If you would wave your hands or come up, if however you feel. We're going to be doing some social media and different things going on. So this is Luis Garcia's, Sebastian, tell me your last name. Sebastian Smith. Sebastian just joined us, so welcome, Sebastian. And Christian Henkel and Susanna,
our founder.
Right. It's like it's not coming to me today, but Susanna's our founder and coordinator for Gilded. So we're all here today. Besides, we do have advisors as well, but the facilitators are all here. Oh.
This is one of our new advisors, or our board members.
Okay.
This is
Robert Ricardi.
Ricardi, yeah, that's my last name. Sorry. I want to say Ricardi, but I know that's all right.
Well, thank you so much, and we're going to get started. And Christian, I think you're going to do the introductions
Oh,
today.
am I?
Yeah. You are.
Call me
for our
unprepared.
presenters.
Do we have a sheet?
Yep.
Actually, I don't really need this microphone. We'll find this. We'll get it started up here in just a second. Excellent. So our first presenter today is Heidi Van. Heidi Van's an accomplished performer who acts, directs, produces, writes, and is a founder of the Fish Tank Theater. Her awards include being a UMKC Entrepreneurial Scholar, Rauschenberg Foundation Seed Grantee, Charlotte Street Foundation Fellow, and Arts KC Grantee. Ladies and gentlemen, Heidi Van.
Hello. I'm going to start a timer, but you might want to give me a high sign, 'cause
Okay.
I know that I'm a bit long-winded. Hello, welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. It's a pleasure. It's always fun to talk about art and business. It's one of my favorite things to do. I am, as I said, I'm Heidi Van, and I'm an actor, creator, and producer of contemporary experimental live theater. I opened a space in the Crossroads 7 years ago called the Fish Tank, and it's a space and it's also a concept, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I began my career with what I thought I wanted, which in the theater was just to keep working and to maintain in the conversation. I started as an actress, I evolved into a theater deviser, and then a recognized theater artist locally and nationally by receiving funding. And I'm also a graduate of the Del Arte International School of Physical Theater and the H&R Block School of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And like I said, I started the Fish Tank. Kind of fell in my lap. The Fish Tank. An intimate black box theater in the heart of the Crossroads. It's a space to create, edit, and debut ideas. The material we perform at the Fish Tank is fresh, it's content progressive, And it's performers and writers committed to the aesthetic of risk-taking and failure. And I'm really proud. One of the things I'm the most proud of is that I've cultivated and curated an audience that are willing to come and risk with me on this work that we present. Most of it is untried, it's untested, it hasn't been done in New York or Chicago or LA. We're trying it for the first time here. Not to mean that it's unprepared, but it just doesn't have a history. So that's part of the concept that goes with the fish tank. The fish tank also has a window space in which I've staged a lot of my projects. The quality of the performance transcends words with movement, and visual elements and music can convey humor without a script. I work with actors and dancers and musicians to create situations. Physicality and sets replace the familiar auditory crutch, and moving performance to the storefront window enforces silence and creates a new fourth wall. Concrete and glass become a wood stage and velvet curtain. And with the window plays specifically and all other plays that I produce, I consistently toying with the way that audience and performance meet. What brings theater to an audience? What brings an audience to a performance? This is an example of taking an intimate scene, as you saw before, placing it in the windows. So view of the audience watching from the street. Inside the fish tank is a intimate black box theater that accommodates up to 50 patrons. And at this point I want to impose a piece of kind of a ideology that was set on me as a student in my post-undergrad education at Del Arte. They told us that we were not just a vessel that needed filling. You're a creative artist, and your education is about discovering what size and shape you can stretch your vessel, rather than trying to pour our knowledge into an already established being. Your ability to change, your receptiveness to new ways of doing things, particularly things that you have done before, is essential to your development. And today that resonates with me more than ever as I expand my business to a new size and shape that is now a bit unknown. In the 7 years that I've inhabited the space at 1715 Wyandotte, I evolved from the black box theater to taking on another office space called the White Room, where we do administrative work, have creative conversations, private coaching, and conferences. I took over an upstairs space in the building that used to be a yoga studio. It's called the Aquarium, and it's this big open space that not only do I use, but other theater companies without a home rent it out for rehearsals, and also dancers and choreographers rent it out for private practice. At the time, I thought more artists being able to work in the space would generate more activity, that there would be a plethora of things going on at any time, and sometimes that's accurate. But I have a new plan moving forward. So last week I gave a talk of Creative Mornings about fantasy, which I thought was weird because in the theater we try to not deal in fantasy. We try to deal with truth and reality, and there's like real dollars and cents that go behind what we do. It's not just fantasy, it's my job. And so this is what I imagine imaginative conceptualizing looking like, and that's what I do. That's what I do every day. Fantasy is this other world that we think is unattainable, but it's actually just a goal. And under that goal, we need to have a strong infrastructure of supporters, of a plan. And the hardest thing to get to that fantasy, to that goal, is to pass through the liminal space, the space that lies between the known and unknown. And as an artist, entrepreneur, which I'm sure many of you have felt, like you have a goal that is a fantasy, and to get there, you have to pass through this liminal space. It's a transitional space of heightened intensity that we experience when we traverse the threshold of the creative unknown. And that happens when we look at a blank piece of paper. That happens when we set a date in a calendar that's like, this is when I'm going to do the show. And then there's all that space to travel to get there. And this space can break you. And it's a hard one to get through. it feels like this sometimes. Letting go, putting your faith into your goal, and leaping out into the creative unknown. As I mentioned last week at Creative Mornings, I talked about the topic of fantasy, and what I discovered interpreting and preparing for that is that fantasizing is a necessary part of the creative process. And moving forward, this is how I feel. I have a vision right now for the fish tank to expand into a larger facility. So the space where I'm at no longer provides the structure for growth that's necessary for my specific structure for growth. Moving forward, the fish tank will maintain its residency upstairs at the 1717 Wyandotte, and we are actively in conversation with a new space within the neighborhood, which is super exciting. So I literally feel like this, and last night I feel like this, and when I leave I'm going to feel like this for probably the next 30 days until I figure out what's happening. But our final performance that will be in 1715 Wyandotte, which everyone should come to because it's nostalgic, is the 12 Plays of Christmas, which is a annual holiday performance that we put on every year. It consists of 12 original pieces by a company. And this is our 4th year, and that takes place December 2nd through the 19th at 1715 Wyandotte. You can get tickets at fishtanktheater.com. And you can find out all about my plans and this ever so important fish tank expansion that is happening and always happening by looking up that hashtag or following Heidi Van or the fish tank on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of those things. So this is a really short talk. I like to talk for a really long time, but so that's me and the fish tank, and I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have after the next one. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Heidi.
That's so fast. 7 minutes is so fast.
Tell all my thoughts and feelings.
So we want to open up the floor now. If you have any.
I didn't know what was happening. Oh, this is my favorite part.
So, any questions, any comments? It can be about the art process, it can be about the business process, or where those two fuse. Feel free.
I think that I'm not an artist,
Uh-huh.
I'm an attorney,
Mhm.
but I think that liminal space idea that has, I guess, we're all creators,
Mhm.
and we all have deadlines, and that's a really good thought.
Thank you.
That thought of like being between the tattoos.
Mhm. Last week in my presentation, I had these other 2 slides about what the liminal space, what you want it to look like, and you were there. One of them was like this lush green field with flowers, and we're like, well, that's what we want that journey to look like. But the next one was actually this like dry, crap land, and it's like that's what our fear does to us, and that's what the walls that we put in front of ourselves do to us. All of a sudden, we lose sight of that goal, and it's by our own sense of self-doubt, and it's by obstacles we actually put in front of ourselves. I've found this city to be extremely generous with information and with human resources. I'm moving forward looking for generosity for capital resources, which I know they're out there, especially in my strategic growth plan for the fish tank. I have a vision to create a theater that I will be in for the next 30 years, and that will sustain that growth. And I have to keep my eyes on that, otherwise I'll be that guy on the trapeze that goes woo, and I'm not gonna do that.
Yes.
So with the expansion, is it why does it no longer serve your needs?
There's part of this space that it's tricky being in an old building that I love. But our relationship sometimes is no longer symbiotic. Sometimes when my business is successful, the toll it takes on the building is financial. And sometimes the building inhibits my path for growth to be successful. And so I still have a season of 7 shows planned. I started producing theater in found spaces almost 20 years ago. So like my work will not continue, and I'm so happy that I found the aquarium upstairs, because that's my dream private practice studio. Like I have a space where I can continue to make work, and you know, if my current prize that I'm looking at doesn't come through in the new space that I'm currently looking at, then I will continue my work. The fish tank is a concept. It nurtures the development of new work, and it inspires theatrical entrepreneurship. It has been happy and lucky to be in one physical space for so long, and it needs to grow. It's ready to grow. It's a teenager. It wants more. Yes.
You spoke about your strategic growth. How do you move from actress, creator, performer to the business woman that you are?
I did it by just desire to want to be involved continually as an artist. And so a lot of the opportunities I got at the beginning were to be an actress, but my training is actually in devising new work and generating new material, which is another word for a playwright. So and most of the work that I created, I directed myself. And if I wanted it to be seen, I had to produce it myself. So throughout the process of wanting to create new work, present new work, and mount new work, I learned how to be a producer, and I love being a producer. And when I needed to understand something more, I went and sought out that information. 2 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was pregnant with my first child, Jeff Church from the Coterie, who's my mentor, reached out to me because he had heard about the Entrepreneurial Scholars Program on KCUR, and he's like, you should apply for this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But I did it, and then I had, the application had a 2-week time base. And like I said, I was pregnant, and I was like, oh, I can't finish it. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Perry replied back, and he's like, you started this application. I think that this would be really good for you, and so I will give you 2 more weeks to finish it. And I was like, okay, like I have to do it now. So I did, and it was it was very different from Artist Inc. or any other sort of artist grooming business programs. But it's one of the best things I ever did, because it allowed me to evaluate my operation in producing a play, like, you know, as a business, which it is. But now when people come to me with projects, I mean, that's like, I look at it from beginning to end. Like, it's a product. Like the performance is the product, but the whole way that it gets to actually getting up to that point is the operation that I feel like I have expertise on. And so that's how I evaluate which projects I either, you know, if you want to rent the space and do that, or if I'm going to put my time in and develop it. So, does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
This is just a question for, like, if you're expanding the building. Do you hope to further that, fostering new ideas and bringing maybe more opportunities in with the building, as in like new structure, different things? Like how you have the studio now, the white room and the black box and the windows?
Yeah.
Do you plan on bringing in more?
No, I imagine consolidating that into one space. Like I said, I'm going to keep the aquarium as a rehearsal hall, at least for the next year. But in the new space that I'm looking at, all of those things can be combined into one location. They can accommodate more patrons, and there's actually the opportunity for more revenue channels. There's a liquor license. It can be an event space. I can have a casual and live First Friday audience and monetize off of that bar. You know, like First Fridays has been a time for us in the Crossroads that sometimes we don't really make a lot of money. People just come and look at us. But like, that's when the most people will ever encounter my business. So like, a space will help me not only reach new audience, but also get them in the door, have them spending money, but also encounter like take a little snapshot of the work that I do with them and come back. And like, I want to continue to maintain in the Crossroads, because that place inspires me, and it's a destination. Like the Crossroads is now a destination, like once a month for random people. But I go there every day. That's where my office is, you know. But I want my theater to continue to grow there, but just have the walls wide enough that it can, and it'll stay there. Yes.
How do you advertise or market or spread the word about your business and tell your story? What methods do you use?
Well, as a small company, a lot of the methods I use are free. Social media. We used to have a really good relationship with one of the writers from the Kansas City Star, so it was accessible to get a preview article and like the necessity of getting your story in the Kansas City Star. Like I can actually see returns off of when that happens. That's been a little bit difficult lately. For a while, I did hire a PR firm to so I kind of saw if that investment would work out monetarily. Which, if I don't have a lot of things going on at the same time, it really doesn't. But so now with them, I kind of work on a project basis, like when I have a really big thing to push. But I try as often as I can to do things like this, have articles. I pitch stories to a lot of different magazines and newspapers about what I'm doing. Also, trying to get into the other side of an arts conversation, but into a business conversation. Like, my audience in the arts field is a limited audience. So, and there's probably more potential patrons for me on in another section of the paper who's not reading the section of the paper that I'm most often in. And so, yeah. And the hard thing is that I do all of this myself. So that's the hard part, is figuring out. The first time I did this presentation, the picture of me was me wearing a whole bunch of hats, and that's essentially what I do. So sometimes I have to pick what job I'm going to do that day. So, were you a mentor at the E-Scholars program? That's right. Do you remember me? Okay. I'm like, you were so like, yes. Yes. Hello. Is Dr. Perry here today?
He's not here, but he still would be the person.
Okay, I was like, who's gonna be here today, or anybody else? Cool. Any other questions?
Heidi, I had the privilege of coming to see young Black Victorian with one of your
Resident artists.
Resident artists.
Mhm.
Do you, to me, some of the things you've talked about, it's almost like you're an arts incubator.
Yes.
In a way.
Mhm.
So have you been able to use that as far as leveraging funds or different connections, that is what you do, also incubate young talent?
It has. I've received funding from the Richard J. Stern Foundation to support my internship program, which is in its 4th year, which is something I created out of just kind of necessity to have other people help me accomplish the tasks I needed to do to produce a play. So I assembled more people and also taught them, like nurtured them in a certain field, like publicity or facility management, or this is a light board, or you need to go hang these posters everywhere. But at the same time, I teach them how to be mini producers. If they stay on, they become resident artists. And so I have 2 on right now. One of them is Rashidat Raz Badajo, who, because she'd been with me for so long, and she had an idea for a show, I said, write it, and I'll produce it, and I'll direct it. And she did it at the Fringe Festival last year. It's called Young Black Victorian, and we extended it for 2 weeks. And she's got the opportunity to do it again at Willie Jewell. But like these investments in people, like just in people and giving them the skills, like she's very loyal to the Fish Tank, but she has the opportunity to take that show somewhere else. And like the Fish Tank and our names are on it because we developed it and directed it. So we're part of that. Also, I developed this program called the Legacy Program that's inspired by my relationship with the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation. Robert Rauschenberg believes in sustaining the integrity of things and also his legacy. So there are 2 companies in town that needed a home, that needed a space to begin, because it's really hard when you're a new company to work out of your house, right? And who works out of their house? It's really hard. It's really hard because you're distracted by dishes and laundry and cats and dogs and children. And so the Black Repertory Theater of Kansas City and Tradewinds, the Pan Asian Artists Collective, I reached out to them and said, I want to create this program called the Legacy Program, and I want you to use the Fish Tank for office rehearsal and performance space free of charge. In my mind, that's also something that I go to other places. So it makes me different, my differentiation strategy. Like I nurture people, and I'm an incubator for new artist entrepreneurs, and especially for these new companies that have a place in our community that aren't represented. So, I expand my program based on the needs of the community, but also, hope to reach out to funders to be like, we're all in here together. Like funding one of us funds all of us, especially in that particular instance. I don't know.
So,
I
we,
could go all night.
I don't know why I
These are so,
keep
you have to like hug these. This is really weird.
we have no more time.
I know.
But we have what we
Got
call
me.
the gilded question,
Got it.
and we ask all of our presenters this at the end of the Q&A for their presentation. So what is it that we in this room and the Kansas City community in general can do to help you do what you are doing and succeed?
Yes, so you can come to the 12 Plays of Christmas. You can do that. You can come and see the work that we do with the fish tank. But you can also find out about us online, and especially at this point when we have such a plan to move forward. We're meeting with architects, we're coming up with a budget. Like, you can donate any amount of money. That will help this vision move forward, and that will help us continue to operate for the next 30 years. Plus, I just say 30 years because maybe I'd retire after that time, but I'm not going to. So anyway, just come to, and it's for any years. Come see our work, experience our work, and oftentimes for us performing artists, that has a ticket fee, and that is great. You can start there. Start by buying a ticket. So thank you.
Thank you again, Heidi, and everyone for making it the conversation that it is. Well, as we transition to Bruce, we do have a couple of announcements. Just at this being Global Entrepreneurship Week, there is an Art Cap informational session that's happening this evening from 5 to 6, and that's at Maddie Rhodes in Kansas City. Nick Naughton and Chris Delaquist will talk about financing strategies and funding pools for art-based businesses. So you're welcome to go there and hear more information around financing this evening at 5 at Maddie Rhodes. And also, our next Gilded event will be December the 8th at the Uptown Arts Bar off of 3611 Broadway in Kansas City from 6:30 to 7:30. And we were planning on having, for those of you who follow us, we were having another event at the library. We had one previously with illustrators, where we had about a couple of hundred people there. And it was a great event in the summer, July, in the summer we did that. And we were going to do one in December, but now we have moved that to February the 16th, and hopefully you signed up for our email, so you'll be notified of that as well. And Bruce will be one of the presenters, along with Jason Aaron, who is a comic book writer for Star Wars and Thor. The theme will be sci-fi storytellers, so look out for that as well. And thank you to everyone who took a survey off of the table, and hopefully will fill it out and return it to us at the end. That helps us with fulfilling our funding obligations and commitment, and also helping us grow the Gilded experience into a greater experience for you. So without further delay, Christian will come back up and introduce Bruce, and we'll do it all over again.
So I want to thank, on behalf of Gilded, all of you for showing up. This is great. We like to say that this is where the conversation begins, but the conversation between audience and artists, and between artists and entrepreneurs, that should be a continuing conversation so that we can build up the arts entrepreneurship in Kansas City. I'll stop there, and we'll get on to Bruce. Bruce Branit has a long and successful career in visual effects and 6 Emmy nominations for shows such as Star Trek Voyager, Breaking Bad, Lost, and Fringe, all from here in Kansas City. He has won regional awards and is currently pitching projects he has developed. Bruce Branit.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me through this? Do I need this? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I'll just talk like this. Thanks for having me here. Susanna, I am Bruce Branit, and I've done visual effects for my whole career. I'm a visual effects artist. I'm a writer. I'm a director. And I'm a filmmaker. And in my career, visual effects is really just a component part of my larger filmmaking ambitions. So as we start, I'm going to show you, this is a quick 1-minute reel of visual effects work, all done right here in Kansas City, by the way. There's some Breaking Bad spoilers in this if you're not up on the show. that was work done by myself and my company in about the last 8 or 9 years from here in Kansas City. There was Fringe, Lost. The last shot was from Breaking Bad, earned the Emmy nomination for Best Visual Effects in a television series. I've had 6 Emmy nominations for that, including one just this last year, and I've won none.
You will. You will.
Thank you. What this shows is that I've been kind of a trusted part in filmmaking on a really high level. Television shows you probably watch, and but that's really just a part of it. I'm more a filmmaker, and I've been studying filmmaking. I've been honing the craft of the larger picture of filmmaking for a really, 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 really long time. In fact, that's me. So I had an older brother who always made Super 8 films. So I was on film sets pretty much as long as I can remember. And that's the first visual effects shot I was in.
Nice.
So when I was about 10, my father bought this, and it pretty much flipped my universe upside down. I used it to program, play games, of course, but I used it mostly to write stories, science fiction, Twilight Zone sort of stories. And this adoption of technology and art at an early stage is crucial to me, and it's pretty much stayed with me my whole life. It's how I still work to this day, and it's a lot of times what the themes of my work is about. But I can hear my dad saying, you can't make a living in make-believe, so I went to college and studied chemical and petroleum engineering as most arts. And I was miserable. So I went from major to major to major. I never really found my place until I took a drawing class.
Go Tigers.
And I earned a scholarship to the School of Fine Arts at KU off of that work. And I eventually found my way into industrial design. And industrial design is the design of themes, or things. And I aspired to be a car designer because it was kind of like a blend of art and technology. It made a lot of sense to me. But then a friend of mine at a company in Topeka showed me the video toaster. And they called this the movie studio in a box. And it really was. It had a 3D animation program in it. And look what it let me do. I found another way to tell stories. So making spaceships and aliens and stuff like that turned out to be a lot more fun than making real world cars. More fulfilling too. So based on that work, I moved to Hollywood and got a job making spaceships.
Wow.
And blowing them up. And from this point on, my whole career has been make-believe. And this is my film school. I never went to film school, but this was a film school. The sets of Star Trek Voyager and Deep Space Nine, I got to be on set. I got to read scripts and see rough cuts. I got to talk to directors. I got to talk to screenwriters with tons of experience. But after years of this, I realized I still had stories I wanted to tell. So I teamed up with a friend of mine, and we made a short film called 405. And it exploded. They called it like the first viral video. 50 million people downloaded this as a QuickTime file and installed a DivX codec in order to watch it. And so this is 5 years before YouTube even existed. And today, 405 has over 1 billion.
That movie 405, I couldn't believe it when I saw that film. Neither could Hollywood.
Here, I just want to show you one other thing that has nothing to do with anything. This is something online. I don't know if you've seen it before.
With a home computer, you can make this movie. It's fabulous. Good luck with it. Steven Spielberg's first movie called with the Truck. It's a great Hollywood story.
So, it wasn't. We spent the next year to 18 months in the studio system developing a really cool movie called Last Machine. Nanotechnology, cautionary tale. And we learned what development hell is about. So after like a year and a half of this, we didn't get paid, by the way. It was back to visual effects just to survive. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've been lucky to work on the things I've worked on. And it's a great career. If you watched Westworld last week on HBO, I had work in that show. But visual effects is a full-time job, 60, 80, 90 hours a week. And I remember I picked up visual effects to tell stories. And you could say, well, visual effects and filmmaking is pretty much the same thing. What's your problem? But I look at it like this. It's more like being a really good carpenter, building other people's houses for a living, but knowing that you would make a better architect. So it was on Sin City that this really was clear to me. I have all the access to everything Robert Rodriguez has access to. In fact, I'm working on his movie. Why am I working on Robert Rodriguez's movie when I could be Robert Rodriguez? So I came back to Kansas City and teamed up with my brother there, the bald guy, Roger, and he stayed behind the camera while I played with computers. And we made this film, World Builder. And World Builder also went pretty viral. 20 million people downloaded it in the first month. It was the biggest short film in China the year it was out. And in World Builder, there's the themes that you'll find that is in most of my work. And it goes back to that Apple II. It's a theme of technology that's meant to better our lives, but instead leaves people yearning for an authentic face-to-face connection. And I haven't stopped. I've been developing project after project, trying to get things launched. Here's a few of them. Trebuchet. It's the story of the last man alive, hearing the radio voice of the last woman on Earth. Only he's not on Earth. And his social robotic companion here needs to keep him that way. And then there's the Lucid Engine. A man finds a machine inside his dreams that allows him to tap into the dreams of his daughter who suffers from night terrors. Only are these just nightmares, or it could be something more real? And there's State of the Union. The president gives a warning of an impending alien invasion. Only our social media savvy heroes think it's just a viral video. They could be more right than they know. There's Gotcha, a group of survivors, meets to plot revenge on someone who stole something from their childhood.
Does anyone else have anything to share?
And Bully Mac is the story of a tiny girl left all alone after a post-apocalyptic war, who befriends an enemy battle mech. And together these former enemies find hope and redemption. And those are only some of the things I'm trying to tell, some of the movies I'm trying to make, some of the projects that I'm ready, willing, and able to create, given time and money. But the problem is, going back to the carpenter and architect analogy, I'm not even a carpenter anymore. I was running a visual effects business. I was a carpenter's foreman. I wasn't even doing the work. I was just running a business. So about a year ago, I decided to kind of double down on all this, to live in the shoes of the architect, of the filmmaker. And I've spent more time behind the camera, spent more time writing, I've spent more time pitching, and devoted myself to this. And the results are pretty good. I've directed a bunch of local commercials. My project, Bully Mac, we were able to announce yesterday, we've got a development deal with a company in Vancouver to develop and package and pitch this as a feature film. I spent the summer at times in Los Angeles pitching to major companies, including getting into Bad Robot. The Last Machine has now been optioned for the 4th time. This is a project Jeremy, my partner at 405, wrote, this time to a company in China. And in a similar vein, I've rewritten Trebuchet with a China-centric plot to pitch to another company there. And I'm also in talks with Blackmagic to develop a series of short films that would showcase their software and hardware production pipelines. My 405 partner Jeremy and I are developing an anthology series called Strange It that deals with some of the concepts that I've been talking here. The line is, the future's just around the corner, but you haven't read the licensing agreement. Very Black Mirror type stuff. And finally, I'm working with a group of kids to make the most badass, mother effing Cub Scout achievement badge for filmmaking in the history of the world. pretty awesome. And it feels awesome. It feels all great. It sounds like there's a lot of things going on. And creating is an awesome thing. I highly recommend it. But all of these things are just seeds you planted. The movie business is really hard. It's really difficult. It's hard to get things made. And all those seeds, they may never pay the bills. So, you know, the mantra is, you just gotta stay in it. You've gotta just keep swimming. Case in point, Stranger Things. The Duffer Brothers just kept swimming. They were turned down and rejected by 20 different networks before Netflix greenlit Stranger Things, and now it's one of the most popular shows on television.
Can we start moving to Q&A? Are you ready?
I got 30 more seconds.
Okay.
So, as a filmmaker and a storyteller, I realized putting this together that I'm telling a story. This is my story. And it starts in the first act with a kid holding a golf ball. Introduced to a call to adventure, the extraordinary world of Hollywood filmmaking. And right now, you'd say I'm in my innermost cave, ready to go into the third act. And the innermost cave is where the hero finds his strengths, but also his weaknesses. And learns that everything he's done before is leading up to this point where he's about ready to move into the third act. But unlike the hero's journey, where the hero must go on all alone into the third act, filmmaking is a complete collaboration. It's probably the most collaborative art there is. It takes a ton of people and a ton of money. And that's kind of what I've learned is my weakness, is, you know, finding production partners, saying I need help with this, financing partners. And that's what I'm looking for. So if anybody has any ideas to help on that, come up to me in just a second. Lastly, I just want to wrap up in saying film is happening in Kansas City. There are movies being made here, and really good movies that some people in this room are a part of. And I think Kansas City can make movies that are classics. I think huge things could be made here. And if you don't know of any of those things on the bottom of these groups, there's a lot of things supporting filmmaking in Kansas City now. Go to one of their meetings, join up, help out. The production community here is as good as Los Angeles, Atlanta, the place they're making bigger movies. There's no reason we can't raise money and make great movies here with the talent that's already here. So, I'm Bruce Branit. Thank you very much. Sorry for going so long.
Why don't we go ahead and jump into questions? Anyone?
Back here.
Okay, I was curious, I'm a sophomore in college right now and I have an interest in filmmaking. Would you think it's more beneficial to major in digital cinema, or does it really matter what your major is?
I mean, it matters, but a lot of filmmaking is it's where the rubber meets the road, and like times on set is important, and you'll learn a lot if you can, you know, find people that are shooting commercials, even short films, and do that. But I think filmmaking is important, and depending on where you go, there's it'll put you in connection with people. It'll get you in on shoots that are happening. I know, like, the KU Film School does an internship that goes to Los Angeles every summer or spring break. So there's things about that I would if your real desire is to get into filmmaking, I would look into learning it in some sort of educational environment.
Hi.
Nope.
Oh, I got the microphone. I'm in charge here. I'd love to help you. I can take care of the details on the funding, because we make films here in Kansas City, and we have for a long time.
Come on up. Everybody else can go.
I got a movie with a script, and Heidi and Louise are gonna star in it, and Louise's son, and we need you to do what you're doing, and just focus on that. I'll get you all the money you need through a not-for-profit.
Well, let's go
Have a
have
Greater Kansas City Community Foundation called At the Factory Loft. It's inspired by Warhol, because all of those not-for-profits that you're talking about will fund what you're doing if it's the right project.
Great. Awesome.
It's about changing the world, and that's filmmaking.
Mhm.
And we do it, and we've done it for a long time on Film Row, right here in Kansas City, because I'm a block from there.
Yeah.
I live on it,
Yeah.
at 1800 Central, a block from the Performing Arts Center,
Awesome. I used to
because
be
they're one of
down
my
there, too.
sponsors too.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll have a networking session after this. Question over here?
How much does it cost to package and pitch a movie, and how much work goes into that, as far as how much filming do you already have done?
A lot. I mean, what I've tried to do over the last, say, 4 years is to use the resources of my company to make like a short film every year that also stands as a proof of concept, for example. And that's a lot of what I was showing you. So the cost of it is kind of hard to figure because it's all just sweat. It's all throwing everything we've got into something while you're not making any money. So the Bully Mech deal is a first for me. It was one of my big goals for this year, in that I had this huge short film with the little girl and the robot, and I'm looking at months to finish it, months and months, and I don't have it because I gotta feed kids. So the deal that I've made with them is they're paying me to help finish that, and together we're owning the whole thing, and they're using their connections to try and get that in front. So to pitch it, it takes nothing. It just takes connections.
How do you source music to accompany your project?
There's a lot of open source things you can buy for a few dollars online. A few of those I've found composers locally and even internationally. Some people I've sent these emails saying, hey, I'm a composer. Can you listen to it while you're working on something else? You just throw it on. And Gotcher was composed by somebody in the Netherlands that I've never met face to face. And he had some things on his reel that I thought were really good, and said, would you like to work on this? So we worked on it, did a custom score for it. So
There's the film office also, Kansas City Film Office also has a directory of resources for filmmakers, including composers, and costume designers, et cetera, so forth, and production people.
Can you just speak a little bit more about the badge that you're doing and working with children?
well, my son's in the Cub Scout group, so. Yeah, so one of the badges is for filmmaking, and the other dads for the younger Cub Scouts are like, thanks a lot. Thanks for setting the bar low for next year.
What are you using? Are they using smartphones? I mean, what are they doing?
Well, no, we set up a thing. I let them storyboard. They wanted to do a Star Wars movie. I kind of used the Jedi mind trick because I wanted to do a Star Wars movie. Like, what would be good? Star Wars. So they storyboarded it. We spent a day shooting, and I got a real R2D2 to show up. It was just a great day, and cutting it together and showing them some rough cuts and getting their notes. The real Hollywood system.
How long?
About 5 minutes.
Can you talk about process? I'm an architect, and
Okay.
who wants to be a carpenter? But this idea of interfacing with digital and analog, because you have a lovely hand, and how do you storyboard and how do you translate that kind of?
I mean, my process is usually, comes with an idea. The idea takes some time to expand. Usually it's in writing. And when it comes close to shooting and getting ready to make it, I've got to storyboard a little bit. And for me, that process is usually reading the script enough that I know it in my head, and then I just sit down and try and watch it and write down all the shots we think we need. And that's my process. And oftentimes, once you get on set, you realize those storyboards are worthless. And you just have to figure it out and go, that's filmmaking. I love filmmaking. Filmmaking is like you walking into battle, and suddenly everything is different, and you got to figure it out and move forward. You got a limited amount of time. You're spending money by the minute, and you got to think on your feet, and always keep in mind the story you're telling. And ask yourself, are we getting it? Or are we telling that story? Let's move on.
Sometimes the original idea is not the right one, and you have to be willing to set that aside and come up with, thinking on your feet more nimbly.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And that's one of my joys in the visual effects and being a supervisor of other artists too is, oftentimes someone will come up with something that's like, okay, way better than what I was thinking of. Let's go with that and see if the client will approve of it.
Question over here.
Hi, you said this is all about collaboration. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that and how you fill those needs?
Well, a lot of what you've seen there, it's really hard for me to fill those needs because all of those pitches were zero budget things. Either that or it's coming out of my pocket. So, there's a difference between filling those needs saying, Nathan, can you come, no, can you come work for me, but I can't pay you? So it's about having connections in the industry that you can lean on a little bit. And hopefully the time will come when it's like, and we're going to pay you for 5 months on this thing. So, I haven't a lot. It just kind of comes down to time. So other than those kinds of things.
We have a question over here. Hi, you didn't mention it in your presentation, but have you ever done any, I guess, corporate videos or business videos as a way to make money? And I say that because, you know, at least in recent years with the Super Bowl, for instance, there's always all these very creative brand videos that come out, and that, so is that even something that even crossed your mind to do?
It hasn't, but I mean, that does go into something that, you know, the stage of my career I'm in right now is, like I said, visual effects is where my trade has been, but my goal is to tell larger stories. So something like a corporate video, if it moves me toward that, I'm completely open for that, because to me, it's about, you know, the creative part of it and telling a story. So definitely open. I mean, everything's a story. Every commercial is a short film. And so the art of commercial, the art of corporate video, it's like first act, second act, third act. You've got to tell the story and leave it for the audience wanting more.
I was curious as to why, or for what reason did you come back to the city from Hollywood?
First, there was
Well,
this
I'm
promise.
from here,
If you like your doctor.
and when I moved to LA, I kind of figured I would live about 2 or 3 years there, and then, you know, check it out and probably move back to Kansas City. And I moved there and I loved it, and it was great. I met my wife while there, and after about 9 or 10 years in Los Angeles, it's kind of like, I don't think kids in LA is going to be a good mix. And about that same time, had a really big year, did a lot of work, and was like, well, where's the truck with money? Because, you know, the balance of cost of living and things like that. So it was a combination of all of that stuff, of like looking what we could do here. My wife said she didn't want to live in a cold weather city again, but we visited here a few times, and she was like, I kind of like Kansas City. Okay, let's go. And Google Fiber doesn't hurt. Because, you know, I wasn't here when we first moved back, but being able to move files quickly back and forth on these sort of shows is really helpful.
Is there, what kind of a quick question though, is there a model of a successful film already done in Kansas City that you're holding up to, you know, that investors from Kansas City invested in and produced and?
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, a lot of the movies that have been shot in Kansas City are in kind of the no budget to $100,000 range. And there's a few coming out that have been shot here in the last year. And we're hoping those get distribution and are seen by a lot of people. But, you know, there's a lot of movies made that a few people seen and they're just profitable enough to make the next one. And that's, you know, that's where I'm coming in too. I'm looking for a way to sustain a career for myself making movies with the hope and expectation that we can make something profitable enough that will then assure a larger budget for the next ones.
What software do you use for the creative effects?
It changes. We're pretty much software agnostic, but myself, I use Lightwave for 3D, which is the same company that was in Topeka. An old dog has trouble learning new tricks, but Fusion, Nuke for compositing, and I edit in Adobe Premiere and Photoshop and all that other stuff constantly. So.
We have time for one more question.
I'm just curious about what your thoughts are about the future with distribution and how much product is being produced. You know, you grew up and developed moving right from analog into digital, which is a unique place that a lot of us are in. And now we see there's all this product. You're able to put all these little micro projects to pitch together because of, you know, the price of digital, which also means other people are doing the same thing, and you're looking to China now for help financing and probably distribution. So when all this stuff is coming out, what do you think is, how is this going to play out?
It's hard. It's hard. I've had lots and lots of conversations about that where there's just so much noise. And, you know, it's interesting having huge viral films from 405 to World Builder to a few things more recently, watching the change. Because 405 was the only thing out there, and people went to find it, and it was spread by email. And then World Builder spread through YouTube, and the peak was much quicker and much back down. 405 had to build over months. And now it's hours, where something hits and everybody shares it and it's gone. So being able to capitalize on that is very difficult. And the world of viral videos and sharing is now kind of gatekeepering, where it's hard to have something that's naturally viral because there's so much that's unnaturally viral that people subscribe to. So, understanding that system is tricky, and I'll admit I don't understand it completely, and I revert back to the innermost cave where it's like, I just want to make stuff. Just let me make stuff, and understanding all that stuff is exhausting, but some people understand it, and that's what I'm kind of hoping to find is partnerships with people that want to dissect. So.
And I think the last time you presented, there was someone who brought up the fact that they were working on a film where they used well-known YouTube actors,
right.
And that would help on the spike of going viral.
Yeah. They are the celebrities if you're looking for something that's internet-based.
Well, again, you can see Bruce again at the library, and he had more here than we expected. He had changed up, and he'll probably change up again, and we'll be excited to hear about, what's in the works, how the Canada deal is going through, and what's happening with that. So that's February 16th, and we'll also have comic writer Jason Aaron, or comic book writer, I should say, Jason Aaron. And then our last question for Bruce is, what can we do to help you as a community?
I don't know. Again, kind of going back to what I was answering Dan's question, is I revert to the art and understanding, and this is things like this, really, this opportunity to talk about what I'm doing, because it doesn't come naturally. It's, I can make a presentation, but in conversation, I'm making something. Go away. So I guess, spread the word, I guess.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
And thank you to Heidi as well, and you all for making this. For making this what it is. We appreciate your participation and being here. And please do return your surveys. We have to the table in the back. We have this room until noon, so you can feel free to mingle and talk more with Heidi and Bruce and amongst yourselves as well. And hopefully we'll see you on December the 8th at the Uptown Arts Bar for our next Gilded event. Have a great global entrepreneurship week, everybody.